Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton want your guns. So get a safe at thesafeandvaultstore.com. Again, that's thesafeandvaultstore.com. Flash sale. This will not last. Same day shipping on all AMSEC safes, BF series, in stock, limited time, free shipping, no tax, while supplies last. Call 1-800-207-2259. That's 1-800-207-2259, or click the link below right now. That's thesafeandvaultstore.com. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning in to AMTV, Alternative Media Television. It is Thursday, June 23rd, 2016. We just did our first Facebook Live broadcast. Many of you tuned in. We interacted. It was cool. I give it a thumbs up. I did have you guys staring at a giant light the whole time in the background, which is, was kind of joking. Well, you know, hey, you just got to deal with it, right? It was the first time. It's kind of like popping our cherry. Things didn't really work out that well. It's almost like the condom broke or something. In order to take the country back, we basically have to do the same thing, in theory, at least, that was just done to us here, at least in the United States, and we're seeing this abroad, I'm sure, even in your home country. There's got to be high-level organization, people with money, people with power, people with political control, and people that also control the media. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. It was a lot of fun. We'll continue to experiment with that. And I really like interacting with you guys and responding to comments in real time. And yeah, it's cool. It's awesome. It's off the cuff and it's live. Also, I've got a very important video being released before this, a very important announcement. Pay attention to it. Please share it. Get it out everywhere. We are going to war with the mainstream media, and we're blowing this shit up. Stay tuned for that. So House Dems are sitting on the floor in Washington, D.C., the idiots that they are. Man, they really want our guns.
This cannot stand. We will occupy this floor.
No break, no bill, 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 no break, no break, no bill, no break.
They want our guns. Now, as a libertarian and a constitutionalist and someone that believes in freedom above all things, that's fine. You can be an idiot. You can have your opinion, but you're not going to take our guns. You know, just like you have a right to be a dumb shit and sit in and show pictures. And again, I'm not taking away from the tragedy at all. I talk about this on Facebook Live. It's Orlando was a tragedy. You know, they've got the pictures of the victims. My heart goes out to them. I'm not discounting that at all. The family members, people that have suffered, etc. Not discounting that at all. But could you imagine, I tweeted this, follow me on Twitter if you're not already at AMTV Media. Could you imagine if instead of the dead, 49 or 50 or so, dead people that were at the club Pulse that were murdered, instead of showing that, the Dems were holding 500,000 unique images of all the dead men, women, and children that Obama's been bombing in Syria. Could you imagine? You see, people are either uneducated. I think a lot of the time it's that because they're so perplexed by the mainstream media, boob tube, and this propaganda, brainwashing. You know, it's just like putting their brain and, you know, just putting all these chemicals into it or something. They actually just don't even get it. You know, I could mention Syria to them, for example, and I talked about this on Facebook Live, and they wouldn't get it. They'd be like, Syria, is that a country? They don't understand. You know, 500,000 people dead in Syria is quite a big deal. It kind of pales in comparison to 50 or so here in Orlando. Not to mention that the policies of Barack Obama, which have been a continuation of the policies of George W. Bush, have only helped brew the violence and the hate, help promote this jihadi terrorism flooding over our borders through lax immigration and engineered crisis, which is resulting in these events where people are murdering others in cold blood. Again, could you imagine if they were showing the 500,000 images of all the people dead since Obama's been bombing the country? You know, running guns through Libya, which made up Benghazi Gate, and taking out through NATO, covertly through U.S. intelligence and Western assets, Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. Could you imagine? No, you can't, because mainstream media is never going to talk about that. I mean, you're never going to hear Anderson Pooper talk about that, ever. Could you imagine if they were broadcasting that 24/7 like they do everything else with their liberal radicalized agenda, and they just kept showing us all the horrible images of all the 500,000 people dead? Could you imagine? No, but they'll never do that. They'll never do that, because it's not the narrative that they're trying to build. You see, the mainstream media has so much power, and it brainwashes everybody. I mean, people think that like somehow the Nobel Peace Prize winner Obama is like this peaceful character or something like that. Like, oh, he's just a good guy. No, he's actually drone striked more times than George W. Bush ever did during his presidency. He bombed a hospital not too long ago. I think there was at least a few dozen people killed, including children, a Doctors Without Borders hospital, and he just, issued an apology. Sorry, sorry, my mistake. But see, these radical liberals are either ignorant or they just support murder. I mean, it's a total double standard. It's not even a double standard, it's worse. It's all these Dems on the floor, just this political stunt. They're just idiots. They're Democrats, like my grandfather used to say. They should just stick their head right up their big, fat, tight little pucker asshole. Well, I guess a lot of them aren't puckered up, but that's really what they should do. They want our guns. They do. As a constitutionalist and someone that supports freedom, and we've got the Brexit vote today, I talk about it on Facebook Live, you just see how all of this is just really just unraveling. I mean, I don't think that the Brexit vote will be to leave. I think it'll be rigged to remain regardless one way or another, but what's clear about it is the Eurozone's collapsed. It already has. I mean, it's done. Just the sheer fact that they're voting again and that we've got negative interest rates, there's a dissolution of this bloc. It doesn't matter if it happens today or tomorrow or at another time. Again, this is part of the agenda. This is going to be used as justification for further integration and more power and the giving up of any rights that people have. It's why people like George Soros have been funding this violent overthrow of sovereign nations through an engineered immigration crisis, for example, because it's part of that agenda. Again, terrorism is flooding over the borders, not just here in the United States of America, but also Europe. And then when bad shit goes down and these events transpire, Obama says, see, that's why we've got to go after the guns, even though he's wanted the guns from day one. And this has been a radical Manchurian candidate overthrow of a great nation. So it's the truth. It's not a conspiracy. That's what people do. They think it's like crackpot lunacy or something like that. It's amazing all the stories I've reported on through the years that people would say it was conspiracy, and then it comes out later that it was just a fact. Like Michael Hastings, for example. People thought it was very conspiratorial that he was murdered. You look him up if you're not familiar with Michael Hastings, that his car could have been hacked. So his Mercedes went up to like over 100 miles per hour and then exploded very conveniently. A very controversial figure that there would be motive to get rid of him. People said, oh, that couldn't happen, self-driving cars and stuff. Now that's just reality. Like, people are now, they understand that self-driving cars are like the future, that the technology exists. Of course they can hack your car. I mean, there's self-driving cars, for God's sakes. They've got the technology. It's readily available. I mean, even Mark Zuckerberg, for example, who's the most powerful person on the planet right now, he really is big government, puts a piece of tape on his microphone and his camera on his laptop. Even he doesn't trust the surveillance state, and he is the surveillance state. That's how crazy and Orwellian all this stuff is. People, they just give up everything, They just open their legs wide open. One big gangbang. Freedom just keeps, people just keep giving it up. It becomes that George Orwell nightmare that he wrote about in his classic 1984. Not a conspiracy at all, just reality. So we really are in just a very dangerous time in American politics. I mean, these Democrats are going after every aspect of the U.S. Constitution because they think it's archaic, right? It's dated. But they never talk about their own issues. They never talk about how they implicitly, maybe it's just through their ignorance, endorse, the deaths of millions of people in the Middle East, which has been a continuation, a byproduct of not just George W. Bush, but compounded by Barack Obama. Recent deaths and events in places like Syria with over 500,000 people dead, men, women, and children. They don't want to talk about that. They want to live in their shroud, of political correctness. And, we're so perfect, and we wouldn't say anything controversial. The Anderson Poopers and Don Lemons of the world that these people tune into. But behind the scenes, they're actually far more murderous and traitorous than any of the Republicans. And again, I'm not defending Republicans. I've got beef with Donald Trump. I support Donald Trump, but he wants a more aggressive surveillance state. We talked about this on Facebook Live. I did just a couple of minutes ago, live. He wants more surveillance. So does Hillary Clinton. Notice how they didn't talk about during the debates surveillance at all, and they didn't talk about the wars at all. Because those are two things you can count on, whether you get Hillary Rodham Clinton or Donald Trump. More surveillance, more war. All that's baked into the pie. Believe me, they've got plenty of surveillance. Here's the kicker. They're not using it to stop terrorism because that's not the plan. This is engineered terrorism. Why do you think they keep bringing everyone over? Why do you think they're riling up and destabilizing the Middle East? It creates the shit show that brings all of this terrorism over in the first place. Just like the mainstream media didn't want to talk about the fact, they just want to talk about Omar Mateen being gay and nothing else, that he actually called, according to his own words, 911 and all the authorities in the mainstream media and told them specifically, according to his own mouth, that he was committing this heinous act and murdering people in broad daylight by the barrel of a gun. He's a very evil person because he wanted America to stop bombing his home country of Afghanistan. You know, that's a pretty legitimate argument, actually. No one wants to talk about it because, again, they're living in their shroud of political correctness and liberal radicalism, either through ignorance or they just endorse it. Blood everywhere. Mass murder, death, genocide in the Middle East. I mean, are Americans stupid enough to think that there's not going to be consequences? Why do you think people like me have been railing against this for over 7 years now with blood, sweat, and tears and everything that I have inside of me? Why do you think there's so much passion in me? Because people just don't think that there's going to be any consequences. Same thing with the Brexit. Same thing when we talk about the financial collapse, the destruction of the dollar. People don't think there's going to be any consequences in any of this. Bullshit. There's going to be big consequences. And we're seeing it now with radical jihadi terrorism and the creation of ISIS, which has been fabricated and engineered by U.S. intelligence and Western assets. I've talked about this ad nauseum. It came out of nowhere, spawned from Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda, created, funded, armed by the Obama administration. A fact. Don't believe me? Maybe you'll believe Seymour Hersh. Maybe you'll believe, the quote-unquote, the really credible people. People are so brainwashed, mesmerized, perplexed by this commercialization and brainwashing of our society through the most powerful entity on earth, which makes up the mainstream media today, followed by the bankster elite, in my opinion. I think the media is the most powerful, followed by the bankster elite, followed by the political class. The political class is mostly just on their knees. The perfect example are the Dems at this sit-in right now. They just suck off the bankers. They suck off the mainstream media. A couple men sitting in a room, maybe a woman or two, really run the real show. I think David Cameron is finished in the UK. I think he's done. Just kind of a gut reaction. I'd like to hear from you in the UK. How did you vote today? Remain or stay? Again, it doesn't matter which way this vote goes. It doesn't matter which way it's rigged. It accomplishes the same goal and it has the same conclusive result. Dissolution and collapse of the failed experiment that makes up the 28-member bloc Eurozone. They're going to use that one way or another, whichever way it goes, today or eventually, to argue for justification, for further integration, and for giving up even more power, more liberty, and more freedom to these same people that have failed on every account time and time again. Same thing like with the banksters here in the United States and abroad. They collapse the entire system, steal from us, rob us, foreclose on us, bankrupt us, and then they go, hey, we're the ones that need the bailout. Is that cool? And they take it through force, and people take it up the ass, and they don't do shit about it. You should watch the Facebook video. Someone asked me a question, Chris, how do we really take our country back? What do we need to do to kind of do that? It's kind of tough to watch the video because I got this big light in my face. I kind of screwed up on that, so I apologize for that. But I do answer the question very specifically, and it's a really good answer. You should watch it. You should tune in. You should like our Facebook page. We'll be doing more live streams. And stay tuned for a very important broadcast coming up. Might be before this video or after, depending on how we get it in post-production, with a very important AMTV announcement. I want to thank you for your continued support. I feel blessed and humbled. We're going to war with the mainstream media. We've been at war with the mainstream media. We're getting louder, we're going to get more irritating, and we're pushing harder, further, faster. Kind of exciting. Get it out everywhere. Make it viral. Hard hitting in your face. I'm Christopher Green. This is AMTV, and click the link below to support our sponsor. Peace.